Good morning, everybody. Ramble time, Agent of Doubt here, and this weekend I picked up this nice little sign at a Goodwill. I love it. I'm going to put it up in my office. Cost 99 cents, and if you're one of those people who's giving $1 to my Patreon, maybe rethink it, because this was your dollar, right? And if everyone thought that way, then the whole trend of Patreon might go away, because you'd see the things that your idols are spending money on, and you'd be like, that's not exactly what I wanted. All the money is really the same pot of money. Just a thought. Anyways, today's ramble will be inspired by Poseidon Kicklidon, who said on a comment on a previous video, "Ramble fail. You're supposed to use your Democrat insider knowledge to tell us why Bernie is suddenly surging, Warren's support is collapsing, and her fundraiser is imploding. Two billionaires are dominating 99% of Democrats' ad spending, and Ukraine Joe has now fallen to 4th place in Iowa. LMAO, discuss." Okay, so did some research, and yeah, Bernie Sanders is surging in Iowa, but just in Iowa. All of the models still predict that Joe Biden has the greatest chance to win the majority of votes from delegates in order to grab the nomination. His chances right now are at like 33%. And Bernie Sanders is like at 25%. I looked it up really quick before making this video, and if you go to Real Clear Politics, that have, that website has a history of all the polls that have been done. They have Biden at 29, Sanders at 20, Warren at 14, and Biden is up 9 points on average. That's them averaging all the polls that have come out, and that's not just Iowa. But if you go to 532, 538, a different site, they show just the polls for Iowa. Say Bernie Sanders is 20. Elizabeth Warren at 17, Buttigieg at 16, and Joe Biden at 15%. Now, Buttigieg, I believe, is outspending a lot of people just because of the email ads that I'm getting from the Sanders campaign talking about how much more money Buttigieg is spending in Iowa. Apparently, he's dominating ads right now, not two billionaires, but that I think would be pretty much his one state that he's doing well in. He was at like 25% a couple months ago. He was actually leading the pack in Iowa. So him spending a lot of money there makes sense in order to maintain his lead. That's going to be his best showing, really. But Bernie Sanders leading the pack there, I think it's just time that people are thinking, okay, I've entertained, the candidates that are below 10% that I like, the 5% and the 2%. But now maybe it's time to, get on the train of somebody who's in the top 5. And so you see people leaving the candidate that is most representative of their positions for a candidate that's close enough and is in the top 5. So I think that's why Bernie Sanders is doing better now. But going back to the Real Clear Politics poll, when they average all of the polls from all over the U.S. and they come up with their numbers, Biden is still ahead of Sanders by 9 points at this point. And it's mid-January, and the caucus here in Colorado happens in February. all of these primaries are about to start happening. They're about to start popping off. So to get Sanders to beat Biden and eclipse him on a 9-point lead across the country, Sanders has got to make a bold move, right? It could be well-placed ads. It could be, a really good debate performance where he goes at Biden, which is just not like him. He's not an attacker, really. He brings facts, but he does not really go on the attack. Something's got to happen real soon if Sanders is going to pull this out, right? And the day after the 2016 election, many of you know I posted a video here on this YouTube channel that said Warren 2020. Now, when I made that video, I figured Sanders was done. He had a good showing, but he was then probably not going to be in politics in 4 years. And I was wrong about that. He's still there. And so is Joe Biden. I figured Joe Biden, stick a fork in him, he's done. We are electing really, really old people. Really old people. And I am actually of the mindset now, even more because of the Trump presidency, that there's a certain age in which people scare me when they get elected. They're not the same people that they were 4 years ago. Just look at Joe Biden's debate performance versus his performance like in 2012. He was just a vicious killer on the stage in 2012. Really 2011. But give him a decade, and his mind is not as sharp. He is not staying on topic with the questions that he's being asked. And it's not just deflection. It's not just him avoiding answering the question. At this point, I gotta say, he just has some rehearsed answers, and he's looking for a place to put them. And he's not quick with his wit. He's not on his feet anymore. Because he's old. Sanders still has much of his mind left. Some people carry their mind with them well into old age, and some of that has to do with probably the diet of all of the people around him, given his politics. If they're mostly vegan, maybe they're living longer and protecting their myelin sheaths on their neurons longer by having a better diet than Joe Biden. Just a theory. Anyways, yeah, something has to change real quick, because the primaries are going to start popping off, and that's when the numbers count forever, right? So the move has to be made really soon, and what I'm saying is, right now is when the negotiations should happen between the Sanders and Warren campaign in order to combine campaigns. If you look at where they're polling, Sanders at like 20%, Warren between 14 and 17%. Put those two numbers together, and you will beat Joe Biden. Now, I'm assuming that the people who are for Warren are, mostly agreeable to Sanders, right? That these are just two factions of the progressive left that can put aside their very minor differences politically, right? I'm not thinking that this is something that like Hillary versus Bernie in 2016. This is something that can be mended. The little bit of policy details that they have between them that are different, they could hammer out a lot better than Joe Biden and Sanders could get along on things, for that matter. But if this doesn't happen, then I don't see either of them having the numbers to beat Joe Biden, if one of them doesn't drop out, you know. And I know that I was pushing for Warren 2020, I still like a lot of her politics. But, again, I'm being pragmatic here, and if she could accept, a lesser role in the administration to come, she could actually be a part of it by combining her campaign with Sanders. And I think a Sanders-Warren ticket would be something that would be able to generate enough buzz within the youth of America to bring them out to vote. And so I think right now is the time. If they wait till half of the primaries are over and those primaries have already recorded their votes, then it will not be a bold enough move timed at the right time to make a difference. Because the lead tends to snowball. And people like to vote for a winner. That's why Iowa is so important. That's why Pete Buttigieg is spending so much money there. It's because leads tend to snowball. There's just a psychological effect to it, Then again, we're going to have to wait to see the actual numbers that come out of the polls, and then come out of the primaries. Because who trusts polls anymore? Look at me the night before the 2016 the 2016 election, and then like the night after. Wow. Wow. Those polls had me thinking that there was no way that Trump could win. And I had predicted every other president, years in advance that they would win before that in my lifetime. Right? And now I feel rudderless. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that if you're going to take the bull by its horns, you got to move now. The time is now. Don't keep waiting and waiting and waiting and wait to see how we're going to do. We might be able to, negotiate for better terms. Fuck that. Make a move now. Do the right thing. Those are my thoughts. Comment below. Leave me messages, and because we are conversational on this channel, I'll probably respond to a lot of your messages. I have been lately. Jump on. Let's go.